What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to Fantasy Alarm DFS NBA live stream. John Impemba here with James Grande again, bringing you Tuesday's 7-game DFS. What's going on, FA Nation? Welcome to Fantasy Alarm DFS Playbook today. Live stream. Deep dive here with James Grande. Kind of we're navigating around a lot of waiting on guys to play, waiting on guys to get ruled out, but overall, I think we largely have a clear picture of what we're waiting on. Of course, the Timberwolves have been a pain in our butt all season long. Are going to remain that way, but at least some positive news there with Karl-Anthony Towns being upgraded to probable, better than like the game time decision and everything else we probably had to deal with before. But aside from all that, how are you feeling about today?
I'm feeling good, and we are kind of still waiting on some news here and there. I mean, Luka Doncic, we're still waiting on. He's officially still questionable. We're waiting on the two Blazers guys in Hood and Evan Turner, which I know it doesn't sound big, but I mean, that could open up more minutes for Mo Harkless. Right. Yeah. That can open more minutes for Harkless. And I mean, we just got word like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before the live stream that basically all of Cleveland is out. I mean, essentially every player on their team is. So, I already told Howard and Jim on XM today, if they have their Nikes ready, Cleveland is looking for able bodies. So John and Matt Sells behind, if you're looking for a quick flight, looking for some money, I heard Cleveland is looking for some players for tonight's game.
Yeah, but other than that, you're active players tonight, something like that.
Yeah, they're. I mean, they're gonna have active players, but I used the term like players very loosely because I don't know how much they're actually going to play and how good they're going to actually play.
Fair enough. In terms of these 7-game slates, we do have some high point spreads, a couple double-digit point spreads, kind of maybe limiting the slate from a 7-gamer to a smaller slate, or what are we looking at for Vegas here? Hello, James. Are you there? You frozen? Well, I guess I can pick this up while James works his way through some technical difficulties here. Like I said, we have a lot of double-digit point spreads going on here right now. New York and the Pacers are sitting at 11 points. Cleveland, Philadelphia, as we mentioned, Cleveland's got half their roster missing. Philadelphia, they're minus 15.5 tonight at home. Pretty difficult to go ahead and trust, going through that route. You have Milwaukee, New Orleans. New Orleans
back.
11 points. Grande, are you there?
Hello?
Earth James.
Hello?
I think we hear you. I hear you. I just ran through 3 of the 10-plus point totals if you want to pick it up. I just said we got New York, Indiana, 11 points. We got Cleveland, Philadelphia, 15.5. Milwaukee, New Orleans, 11. Minnesota, Denver's at 9, but maybe that will bend down a little bit for more of those Minnesota guys coming to play. So, yes, in theory, we have a 7-game slate, but in reality, it's probably like a 4-gamer with all these big blow potentials.
Yeah, I mean, the Minnesota-Denver slate's already come down from 10.5 to 9, too.
Right.
So, I don't know if it's going to move any further considering, I mean, it's 10:30, so maybe, but I don't think it's going to move off the 9 now, but that's better than 10. That would have been 4 of the 7 games with a 10+ spread. But like you said, make it a 4-game slate. I mean, it's very hard to ignore some guys in Cleveland, and it's crazy to think about because it's a 15.5 point spread. But
it's crazy.
But we get back to the point that they don't have anybody active to play. So I mean,
they have some interesting guys like Clarkson's active, Sexton's active. So they have guys that I think we are safer to play. We'll get to them when we get to them, but safer to play just because they don't have everybody else, like you said. They may play minutes regardless of score tonight.
Right. I'm not saying that they don't have anybody. They just have especially when you look at their front court. I mean, one of their 4 members of their front court is 167 years old in Channing Frye. So, I mean, how many minutes can a 167-year-old play? And then there's
the original stretch 4s, right?
Right. One of the original stretch 4-5s, but there's 96 minutes at the power forward and center that need to go somewhere, and there's not a lot of guys to play them. So,
right. For sure. What in terms of game totals, what's the game stack you're looking at here? We have a 229 Minnesota Denver, as you said though. Got the 9-pointer. It's probably gonna be that late night hammer that we're looking at though, aren't we? 232 with Portland Clippers.
If there was a full game stack, I probably would actually go Lakers Bulls. If there was a team stack, I would probably go Portland with Lillard, Nurkic, McCollum if you could make that work, which you can because there is so much value on tonight.
And maybe some sneaky Mo Harkless if it
and some sneaky Mo Harkless, correct? Yeah, definitely. If both those guys eventually get rolled out.
Yeah. So all right, James. Before we break it down position by position, we do have to give the promotions here at Fantasy Line. We got everything going on. As we said, ad nauseum here, the MLB season quickly approaching. Some of you are already having your fantasy drafts. That's great. Get in the subscribe chat. Ask us a billion questions. We're here to help you. For those of you who don't, you still got time to help you win your fantasy baseball championship this year. We want you to be hoisting that trophy at the end of the season. Get Jim Button's draft guide with the ultimate cheat sheet, in-season coverage, including League Sync to help you win all your seasonal leagues, plus complete DFS coverage with your playbooks, rankings, optimal lineups, over 30 tools, including a lineup generator that supports 6 DFS sites. 6. If you're playing on 6 DFS sites, kudos to you. I barely have enough time to study, 2 or 3 of them. We're also here to help you directly live chat 12 hours a day with all your questions leading up to your draft and during the season, including during your draft. We've had people mid-draft in subscriber chat asking us who they should take. We're here to help you through all of that. Go to fantasyalarm.com/LV season now to check it out. At checkout, use my name, Impemba or Grande or Steve Pimentel for a promo code for an additional 25% off. That's fantasyalarm.com/LV season. Promo code, one of our last names here at the DFS NBA team, Impemba, Pimentel, or Grande. Get an additional 25% off. It's just a great deal. It really is. And like I said, you're going to want it. And just, help you take your winnings from now that we've had during the offseason of baseball, carry it through the baseball season, carry it into football season. I know a lot of you are probably, lifelong members by now with all the memberships we've been selling. So get in the action. You're going to want to be a part of it.
Yeah, and if you're like you, John, you're not just carrying it into season by season. You're also playing NASCAR. You're playing. I mean, I know you, and you're an MM. You play some MMA. You could dabble in. There's 173,000 sports now on DFS. I mean, you could play soccer if you really want.
It's just incredible what we're doing right now in terms of everything. So it's a great deal. You get the entire Playbook Pro package for just $97. And like I said, use our last names. Additional 25% off there. So great deal. Grab it now. A couple weeks left before the season starts.
Right.
Yep. So let's start off though, James, because this is Fantasy Basketball, DFS Basketball live stream. You were the man on the playbook. Kick it off at our point guard position here. Up at the top, over on FanDuel at the very least. Ben Simmons is the top price guy, but as you said, 15.5 point spread. Below him on FanDuel, you have Dame Lillard at $9,700. And that's a big gap after that for pricing. So what are we looking at here, these top 2 plays? Is there any way you can play these Sixers tonight?
It's a tournament-only play, and obviously we want to. I mean, who doesn't want Joel Embiid against the likes of Ante Zizic and Channing Frye? Who doesn't want Ben Simmons without Jimmy Butler? So, you could play him in tournaments, but I don't think you stress yourself out in cash games for only 3/4 of these guys. I think the clear top option at point guard is Damian Lillard. Our projections think so. Our ownership thinks so. Last time against the Clippers, and I know Pat Beverly is regarded as a shutdown defender, he scored 39 actual points. And he scored 25 plus in 3 straight against them. I'm okay with using Lillard any format. I think he's the top point guard. And then, like you said, there's a big drop-off in kind of
pricing.
Salary. In salary, which is weird because generally point guards, we have 3 plays at every single price point that we want to play. And it's that's not existent tonight. It's mostly in the 5s and the 6s tonight for sure.
Yeah, in your playbook for that sort of next tier down, you have guys listed out. Like a Derek White, like a Jeff Teague, Eric Bledsoe. In your top part, you have Elfrid Payton as a guy that you didn't make the playbook, but you kind of like as well. Talk us through sort of those selections there.
So Elf is obviously a tournament play. He's always going to be a tournament play. That game is one of the games in jeopardy of blowing out. It's 11-point spread, and it's crazy because Milwaukee's on the road. And it's still an 11-point spread. So that's why we're just listing Elf as a tournament play. Eric Bledsoe is very volatile for me. I'm only using him in a tournament as well. I think he can be right in the same line of thinking with Elfrid Payton. I had Jeff Teague written down prior to this injury news. So I think if he plays, he's fine. I don't think we need to touch, though. Like, there's guys at similar price points, like a Derek White, who's only $6,300 on DraftKings with no Rudy Gay, averaging over a fantasy point per minute without Rudy Gay this year. Almost a lock and load. He had one bad game since the All-Star break. Every other game's been over.
10+ shots in 6 straight games.
In 6 straight. He's a beast. He's a beast. So I think we attack that. And then there's one of my favorite plays of the slate, and we kind of debated about it last night, talking about Chris Dunn. We kind of talked on the podcast, or when we recorded the podcast, saying, now, you were kind of like, oh, well, Zach LaVine was out last game, and look how he did. Well, and I agree, but I do factor in that blowout. With LaVine off the floor, he is a much higher usage player. And I know Otto Porter is also now in the mix, but Otto Porter isn't a guy that commands so much usage. He has way more usage in Chicago than he did in Washington. But I mean, 27 or from 19 to 27% usage, 0.93 to 1.10 fantasy point per minute. I think it's very hard to ignore for a $5,200 price tag. But I really think everyone's going to play his teammate, Ryan Arcidiacono, with Zach LaVine out. Yeah. I really think everyone's going to play him. The ownership says so. He played 27 minutes in a blowout. I see it probably closer to 30 in a close game. We've seen him start and play 30 minutes all year long when people are out. So if there was a value play, I'd go there. And then Jalen Brunson, if Luka Doncic is out, I mean, he's playing 30 minutes every night. And I'm not really worried about Bryn Forbes or Derek. I mean, Derek White's a good defender, but if Bryn Forbes is the one that draws the assignment, I'm not really worried about that. Even if DeMar DeRozan somehow draws the assignment, not really worried about DeMar DeRozan. He's not worried about playing defense either. So I think Brunson, who's a secondary play with Doncic, would become an elite play if Doncic were ruled out.
All right. Another guy I'm going to throw out there, just because, again, somebody mentioned the podcast, something that I've been pretty high on, at least of lately, now that we've sort of taken notice of him, is Darren Collison. Draws this matchup against the Knicks. Probably the likely point guard matchups he's going to go up against is Emmanuel Mudiay, who's rocking a 112.5 defensive rating, and Dennis Smith Jr., who's rocking a 110.8 defensive rating this year. Collison already playing really well. Those two matchups, we just love attacking as it is. So I think Collison, really good price point, too. I think he's $5,900 over on DraftKings, over on FanDuel. Collison sitting at 68. I think very doable in this matchup. And again, I know that it's an 11-point spread, and that's a little bit worrisome. It's only 208 total. So I don't think there's going to be any ownership really on him. So, and I still feel like the scoring there with the Pacers is sort of limited to a couple guys. So I still think Collison's going to be a guy that helps them get to that lead. And I think, Bojan, who we'll talk about for sure, is another one. So I still like Collison, despite sort of the Vegas totals there.
Yeah, I'm not against him. I think there's a nice floor-ceiling combination. We get, 35 out of him. Plus, I don't think it hurts Tyreke Evans being ruled out. I think there is, not to say Tyreke Evans is like a minute hawk, but I do think a couple more minutes are distributed to Collison, a couple more to Joseph. So I think as long as this game stays within striking distance, we should see Collison hit that 30-minute mark, which is ideal because every time he hits 30 minutes, he gets 30 fantasy points. It's ideal. So, I'm fine with Collison, too.
A position that we usually tout as one of the stronger probably this season has been shooting guard. Occasionally you run into slates like tonight where that's really not the case. No. It's DeMar DeRozan at the top. I mean, I guess if Luka plays on FanDuel, then he'll fill out that role, and he'd probably see potentially ownership go in that direction. But I think a lot of people are going to be on DeRozan. A lot of people are going to be on McCollum. And then after that, it's like a mid-tier that we don't love. There's value that we don't really love, at least in my opinion. What's your take here on sort of shooting guard tonight?
I mean, I'm with you. I really think it's a bad position, and thankfully DraftKings allow us to play, a lot of the point guards that we just talked about. We could play a shooting guard, Derek White, Ryan Arcidiacono. We could just, sorry, but we're going to play them. We don't need to actually play a shooting guard on FanDuel. They make it a lot more difficult.
Two of them.
Right. We have to actually play two actual shooting guards because it's such a weak position. I do think DeMar DeRozan garners a lot of ownership tonight, as he should, because there's no one on Dallas. We saw Hardaway struggle in New York as a defender, in Atlanta as a defender. He hasn't been good in Dallas. So DeRozan's going to garner a lot of ownership there. Chris Middleton is projected as one of the highest owned players, and I actually had Malcolm Brogdon written down in the playbook, and I gave Middleton a little shout out. I get the Middleton thing. I don't, and I'm going to play him because of ownership, I think, at least in cash games, and I'll probably fade in tournaments, but I do think those two are probably the direction I go in cash, along with CJ McCollum, who, is coming in really hot, 3 of the last 4 games of 25, or 4 of the last 5, rather, 25 more actual points. But they're more there's more tournament plays for me, like Lou Williams, complete tournament play. Jordan Clarkson, you mentioned before, complete tournament play. Right. Damian Dotson, who's playing 30 minutes a night against really very good defense, but he's a tournament play always. Josh Hart, could play 30 minutes tonight, could play 15, who knows? So, I wanna have a stand. I think an under the radar type of value play tonight could be Marco Bellinelli, though. I think.
Yeah.
The minutes have been up on Gallinari. He hit 30 minutes the last game, 25 at least in the last 3 games, and there's no Rudy Gay, so there's more minutes to be had for other players. And Pop is
better DraftKings play for Gallinari because of the 3-point bonus there.
Right, better DraftKings play, but I don't think the 3.9 on FanDuel is also something I'm scared to pay. That's still a very cheap price tag. We're still looking for 18 fantasy points to get 5x. And I think he's more than capable of doing that.
Yeah. So Luka officially ruled in tonight. What's your take on him?
It's interesting because I think a lot of people will not play Luka, and I think the price tag is very, very solid. 8.8K. I also think that gives us another route on FanDuel. I don't love the 10K price tag on FanDuel, but because the position is so scarce, I do think he'll garner some ownership there. I think he'll actually be probably higher owned there, even at a higher price tag than he would on FanDuel or on DraftKings rather, because there's just more options at point guard small forward where he's listed.
Right. I was going to say DraftKings, of course, he's a point guard small forward, where on FanDuel he's a shooting guard. Right. But 59 DraftKings points for Luka the other day, 19, 15, and 9. The dude is just balling. Yeah, so I kind of agree with you. I think potentially, people may gravitate towards him on FanDuel just due to the lack of positional depth there.
Yep.
Let's kind of over to a small forward. Giannis and LeBron are the top 2 small forwards on FanDuel. I have the starting 5 coming out right after this live stream. I actually have LeBron in the starting 5 tonight, and I talked a lot about LeBron on the podcast last night. I'm not worried too much here about the minutes limit, just based off what he's been doing in the 30 minutes lately anyways. He's gone for 52 and 57 FanDuel points. On DraftKings, it's been 53 and 64 because he got the triple-double bonus against Boston in 28 minutes, taking 22 shots in 31 and 28 minutes. So, I'm not worried about him against Chicago tonight. Playing 30 minutes, I still think he takes 20-plus shots given, the lack of really other players. And I think he wants to prove that he's still – the team around him sucks, but it's not his fault. Look what he's doing. It's the rest of the team that's struggling.
I'm not going to not say that he hasn't sucked, though. Maybe from a fantasy perspective, but, there has been countless numbers of clips and videos and of just him not giving a shit.
Well, defensively, sure, but it's hard to argue with the offensive numbers that he continues to put up.
Right. I'm not touching him in cash. I'm not going literally anywhere near him in cash games. I think it's too volatile. And I understand he went for 64, but at the same time, yes, there is a limit of 30 minutes, but who's to say he actually does on every once in a while hit the 30-minute mark? And sure, it's LeBron. He really can do whatever he wants, essentially. Luke Walton's going to be gone anyway, so then it's going to be his team. He's going to hire the next coach, basically. But I don't want to deal with that in cash games. I want someone more secure. I'm not even playing Giannis in cash. I don't think that game's going to stay close enough for Giannis to go off. I think they're both very good GPP plays, which I actually said on Sirius. I do believe LeBron's very much in play in tournaments, but I'm not going to extend myself past the guaranteed prize pool play.
That's fine enough. As we go down, we have Otto Porter against those Lakers, Gallinari against Portland, which has been a really good spot to attack Portland all years with small forwards. And then we have Bojan versus the Knicks. Bojan's been our boy all season. I think he'll be in a lot of our lineups tonight, even with the point spread and Vegas totals, right? I think we're just both sort of locked in on him here.
Good luck. Good luck picking between Bojan, Gallinari, and Otto Porter on DraftKings tonight. Good luck, because all three are literally tier 1 plays at their respective position.
Right.
I think so. I know you're going to hate hearing this, but I think if I were to rank them, I think Bojan would actually be third from a cash game perspective, probably just based on 11-point spread. I like the fact that the Bulls, Lakers are
Kevin Knox does
1-point
have
spread.
A 114 defensive rating.
I'm not. It's not me disputing. They're all tier 1 plays. Like I said, it's not like, again, it's not first through third. It's like 1A through 1C. I love we've attacked and made so much money off attacking Portland at the small forward position this year. Danilo Gallinari coming in really hot, like 5 straight games of 35 plus fantasy points. He got rested last night in the fourth because it was a blowout, so he should be fresh here. I'm having a very hard time not playing Porter, and even going down to Cedi Osman, who now is going to play 40 minutes. Yeah. He has to play 40 minutes. So it's like, where I don't know how to not play those guys. And I guess, like, I'm in the majority, and I'm going to be, like, if I'm not playing Bojan, like we say it all the time, like, we're going to be in the minority and play Bojan. Well, I'm in tonight, personally, I'm personally in the majority. Now, I can't blame you, and I'm not going to fault you or tell you you're wrong, because I think Bojan's elite play. I just like the other guys better.
So let me ask you, because he didn't make the playbook, and he didn't make the write-up in the playbook. But what's your take here on Will Barton playing 30-plus minutes now against Minnesota, who we have just loved attacking with small forwards all season? Like, even Luke Kennard hit the other day against Minnesota.
Right.
Will the throw Barton, GPP play for life, $6,300 on DraftKings, over on FanDuel, $5,900. Interest?
So I didn't really give the Nuggets a lot of love tonight, and that's probably a fault. I'm probably at fault for that. I gave, like, Jokic was the only write-up. I think all of our tournament plays, because it's the unknown with Minnesota is very scary. We know Towns is probably going to play, but we don't know. Their other 3 leading scorers may not. So
the fact that, like, Teague and Rose are just out of the blue question.
Out of the blue. Yeah. Which is crazy. So, like, it could be Towns, Tyus Jones, and then, like, guys with Bates Diop and Anthony Tolliver. Like, it's just a very unknown. So I think Will Barton is a strong GPP play. I think Jamal Murray could be GPP, Millsap, but I wouldn't go further than that. Like, Gary Harris is still cheap GPPs. Yeah. So, like, I get it, and I like them for tournaments. But again, we just mentioned 4 guys from 6K to 5.2 that are elite for all formats. So, like, if you want to be contrarian, go Barton. If you want, like, guaranteed, like, there's 4 guys that could go for, like, 7 to 8 or 8x, like, with a floor of 5x. Barton doesn't have a safe floor. So if you want, like, the combination, you go the other guys. If you want off the wall GPP, we saw Barton go for 60 last year, then do that.
Okay, that's fine. I just know, again, one of the matchups that we've been targeting all season long has been small forwards against Minnesota, and Bill Barton. It was only a couple games ago that he had a huge 50-pointer against Utah. So we know the upside is potentially there. All right, as we go down for value, though, mid-tier value, I guess, you mentioned Cedi Osman. Thoughts of guys like J.J. Redick, knowing that there's no Butler or Mo Harkless potentially now with the guys that are missing out of their returner. We have a question in chat over Bates Diop. Do you thoughts on him tonight? If Wiggins is ruled out, like, where are you looking at this bottom part of the small forward position?
So if we get word that Andrew Wiggins is ruled out, Bates Diop is easily one of the better values on the board. I mean, he's played 35 and 36 minutes the last 2 games. We get one of the worst defensive units in the Clippers. It's going to be an up-tempo game for Minnesota, a big spread or a big total as well. So, like, Bates Diop, but again, that's something if you really want exposure, maybe put like a $4,000, $4,100 play from one of the later games, if there is one, that you like. Yeah. And then if Wiggins is ruled out, you pivot to Bates Diop. That's the only scenario you really, or use him on FanDuel as like your drop. You play him, you use him as your drop, and you hope that he's the guy that potentially plays. And you said the other guy was JJ Redick. It's the Sixers are it's just all tournaments. Let's just put him across the board. Okay. All tournaments. I want to play Joel Embiid. That's the guy from the Sixers that I want to play. But again, it's just I don't know if we can do it.
Bates Diop or James Ennis is the question we have in chat.
I think Ennis is safer because he's starting, but I don't have a strong will to play James Ennis because James Ennis is James Ennis. So I mean, he's safer. Bates Diop has tremendous upside if he ends up starting, but we just have no idea. I will say, don't you find it funny how Wiggins and Towns both went through shoot around, and there's no word on how shoot around went, but how it went, Towns came out probable, and Wiggins still is game time decision. So I
think been dealing with nagging just all season long. He's been dealing with something, and it's just whether or not he feels tough enough to play through it, right? And the fact that they're not playing for anything, I know the coach came out and said something, but maybe
it was the owner. The owner came out and said that they're not tanking. So it wasn't even the head coach. The owner came out and said we are not tanking.
Yeah, all this means is that 10:30 Towns is ruled out and Wiggins is ruled in. So let's jump over to power forward. At the top we have Julius Randle and LaMarcus Aldridge, which is perfect lead into one of the questions we have right now in chat, and that is Aldridge or Randle.
I think Randle's too expensive. And I know Aldridge is actually more expensive, but when you consider what they've done recently, Julius Randle, 35, 37, 35. Yep. We're looking at a guy who's $8,700, and over on FanDuel, he's 9K. So we need 43 to 45, which he hasn't done in 3 straight games. LaMarcus Aldridge, on the flip side, gets the the 29th rebounding team in basketball since the All-Star break. No coincidence, DeAndre Jordan's gone. They play a very small center in Dwight Powell. They're only good rebounders like Maxi Kleber, and who knows how many minutes he's going to play on a daily basis. But Aldridge is coming off 60, 47, 34, 46. So 3 of the last 4 for him, he's hit value. So I lean Aldridge. I think Randle's too expensive. You could do it in tournaments if you want, but he's just not hitting the value that these sites are placing him. Plus, what happens if that game's over in 3 quarters? We're going to see Check Diallo, and we're going to see Kendrick Williams. We're going to see the bench players. We're not going to see Julius Randle in the 4th.
And you still have Anthony Davis for 20 minutes.
And we still have Anthony, right? And I'm so sad that you even brought him up.
I had to.
I know you did.
He's still a draft play for me. I know. You refuse to acknowledge his existence, but went for 40 fantasy points again the other day. Up to 68. They finally bumped him up. So now you need 34 fantasy points to get 5x out of him or whatever it is. So still good on FanDuel. DraftKings go play Anthony Davis. If not Anthony Davis, though, some other guys. Lauri Markkanen, I think is really strong here against the Lakers, especially we know Zach LaVine. I like him a lot. And I like Kyle Kuzma being active tonight against Chicago. On the flip side, I'm not too worried that he'd be limited. That's just me being maybe optimistic, but it's just an ankle. There's only a couple games that he missed. And they don't really have anybody else. Again, they're playing another, they're out Ingram, they're out Lonzo Ball, they're down to Josh Hart and all these guys. So I think Kuzma and LeBron are kind of going to be, the offensive focal points here.
Well, I don't think it's they don't have depth because they're playing guys like John Williams and Mo Wagner and stuff. He played 30 minutes last game.
Is he playing 30 minutes if Kuzma's active?
No, but that's not my point. I think the point of Kuzma being viable is why not let him continue to develop? It's still only his 2nd year. So it's not like LeBron, where LeBron has 16 years of tread on his tires. Kuzma has a year, and he's had an injury-riddled 2019. So why not let him finish strong? So I do think there's a lot of merit to playing Kuzma at a really bad price tag, or a really good price tag against a really bad Bulls front court. I don't think it's necessarily because depth, because they could just play John Williams, who... Yeah, but they could. They played him 30 minutes. They have nothing to play for, but I do think from a development standpoint, Kuzma is going to finish out the year strong, playing 35, 40 freaking minutes.
Yep. What other power forwards are you looking at today?
I think Thaddeus Young could be a play. Domantas Sabonis, apparently is sore. One game back, he's, already hurt. Yeah. So, I mean, take that for what it is. It's against the Knicks. They're 29th against power forwards this year. I think power forward's a pretty bad position. I mean, Dwight Powell's a power forward for tournaments on FanDuel. I actually like Maxi Kleber from a point per dollar standpoint better. 30 minutes, I think if Jakob Poeltl starts, which he's going to, they need more of a traditional center. Kleber's a couple inches taller than Powell and is more paint-oriented, which is Poeltl's, forte as opposed to Powell. So I think it makes a little more sense for Kleber to get more run tonight. So that's really where I'm looking. I don't like Mirotic Revenge could be fine for tournaments. Sure. Noah Vonleh's been playing 30 minutes a night if you really want to get crazy. But other than that, if Towns for some reason doesn't play, then Sarge, Taj Gibson are elite play. So, but other than that, it's another thing at least on DraftKings. I could play Cedi Osman at power forward and move on. I could literally play all the guys at small forward that we wanted to and just move on.
Fair enough. Move on over to center then. Where are you looking at the top? Obviously, you mentioned Embiid already. Towns now probable. What's your take here?
Towns, Embiid, Jokic, tournaments. I think it's pretty simple. There's a giant price discrepancy on Yusuf Nurkic from site to site. Nurkic is $9,000 on FanDuel. He's $7,100 on DraftKings. I think you have to attack that price tag. You mentioned it earlier on the podcast. Cantor hasn't hit over 20 minutes since joining the team, so he's not impacting Nurkic's minutes at all. Like a lot of people thought he would. He's just not. It's still Nurkic's team with Cantor as the backup. Then I think it really just drops. I think there's two obvious plays at the value tier, and it's Ante Zizic, who is going to play all the minutes, and I think he should play all the minutes. He had a really good game last night, 17-7. Right. And then I think it's Mo Wagner, DraftKings 3,300. So I lean Zizic. I've seen this question 7 times. Zizic on FanDuel and Wagner on DraftKings.
Fair enough. If we go down, what is your core plays tonight for your lineups?
So it differs from site. So, I mean, I have Lillard and Dunn and Zizic on FanDuel, and then I have Lillard, Dunn, Wagner on DraftKings. And you know what? I'll throw LaMarcus Aldridge in that core as well, because power forward is very scarce, especially on FanDuel. It's an ugly position. If you're not spending on him or Markkanen, I think you're at a disadvantage. So I'm going to go though for it. And I know I mentioned the 4 small forwards are elite, and you can throw them in there, but I'm not going to build a 5-person core.
Fair enough. All right, guys, that wraps it up. We do have our subscriber chat, which will be in answering your questions up to roster lock. James, do we have lineups out yet?
They are going to be up in 35 seconds.
All right, so we're going to have lineups out and the starting 5 video for you as soon as this live stream ends. Be on the lookout for that. Good luck, everybody.
Later, guys. See you in the winner's circle.